Good afternoon, Patriots. This is the American Vision, broadcast on the TLBTV network and brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project. I'm your host, Bill Muckler, and today I've got a great guest, somebody I've been wanting to talk to for a long time, and that's Neal Fox. And I'm coming to you from my studio in Cocoa, Florida. Neal, where are you coming from tonight?
I'm in the Clearwater, Tampa area, also Florida.
Oh, you're just right across the peninsula from us.
Yeah, we didn't even have to use this. We could just yell out the window.
Right. Oh, that's fantastic. Anyway, Neal's got a new project going on right now, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, Uncle Neal's Neighborhood. But in any case, here I am. I'm at Cocoa Beach. So, Neal, tell us a little bit about yourself, because I've been following you and I've been a fan for years, and you've done so many things. You've done a lot of jingles and everything like that.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I'll try to keep this down to 1 hour because at this point I've gotten old enough to have a few credits. So, I was originally, started out playing in bands when I was a kid and nightclubs and all that. And then I had, in the 1970s, I got recording contracts with Columbia Records and RCA and Polydor Records. And I was trying to, be the next Beatles or whatever, just to get some hit records and tour and have fun. And that's a whole story in itself, how I got on and off of those contracts. But after that, I had one or two records that almost got on the charts. One of them actually was on the top 10 of the dance club charts on Billboard. It used to get played in the discotheques back in the 70s. It was called "In the Jungle." It was about them tearing down the Amazon jungle to put in a road. So that was my recording career at that point. That lasted a few years, but towards the end of the 1970s, I got off the labels and I kind of fell into doing jingles. It was not something I had planned to do, but it became like fast, easy money. It's like the first thing I wrote sold, which was really a shocker to me. I mean, I was not used to making money writing and singing and, that kind of thing.
Was that the one about the tea? Yeah,
the Red Rose Tea commercial. That was my first one. Yeah, that's we could talk about that later. That's in my new show on YouTube.
Okay.
And excuse me. But so all of a sudden, I found myself in the jingle business, and I did a Ford Pinto commercial, which was my first big national spot. Of course, the problem was Ford Pinto started blowing up. So they took the commercial off the air, and excuse me. But anyway, so I did a few of those things, and eventually started my own company with a couple of other guys when I had moved to San Diego from New York. And we did hundreds and hundreds of commercials, everything from car dealerships and shopping malls to some of the big ones, Disney and SeaWorld, and we did a lot of music for NBC and CBS, and so the money was really, really good, but it wasn't the kind of life that I liked, because there was no prediction. I was working 7 days a week. I could never take a weekend off. So about 15 years ago, I quit the jingle business, and I still had some money coming in from the Dan Rather CBS Evening News music, which I co-wrote and co-produced. And I figured I'd live off of that money while I got my back into the record industry. And as soon as I quit my jingle business, they fired Dan Rather. So there went that money. That was a weird thing. I had to scramble and figure out what to do. And got back into my own record label, which is called Wire Duck Records, and tried to sell my own albums online. And we did a little bit of that, not that successful, but we kept going at it. And then finally, about, I guess close to 15 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, I did a one-man show in San Diego and Hollywood, California. And it was called Pigeonholes. And I got into video and animation. And I was actually on stage with a 9-foot screen. It was a one-man show. And I wrote the whole thing and produced it and did all the animation and everything. It was the first time I ever did anything like that. And I interacted with the screen. And the audience loved it. It was really incredible. We couldn't find the backers to keep it going, so it didn't go too long. But that got me started in video. And then YouTube came around and I started uploading things. My first big hit on YouTube was a little video about the Federal Reserve. I don't know if you've seen that one. You probably have. It's called The Fed. It's called F Word The Fed. Yeah. And it's basically a funny way to show what the Federal Reserve is and how it's the biggest con game since America began. Yes. And it started to take off. People really loved it because I was using humor to get the points across. It wasn't like a boring documentary or something like that. A lot of people don't want to hear about it. I read, what's his name? Griffin's book.
Creature of Jekyll Island. Yeah. I use a lot of his book, for background material for my book.
Yeah. But it's a 700-page book, and a lot of people aren't going to read a 700-page book. I read it, and with each page, I was getting more angry and more angry, and that's why I decided F the Fed, and that was the slogan for the music video. So anyway, that was the beginning of sort of satire and social commentary music videos, and I did a bunch of them since then. And eventually I thought, why don't I do a whole hour-and-a-half film, a whole documentary doing nothing but music videos on all these conspiracy theories that a lot of them prove out not to be theories. They prove to be true, but people in general weren't aware of them. They the news portrays these things as you got to be a nut job to believe some of these things. And I was finding things out that were surprising me, and I'm a believer in a lot of things. Once I see the facts, I have a pretty good ability to take a good look at it and decide, hey, as weird as that is, it looks like it's true, so I'm not going to ignore it. Because if it is true, we better know about this now so we can do something about it. So I made this I spent 3 years. Sorry about this cough. It's just.
That's okay. And I guess if I can interject, that's kind of when I started to get to know about you and of you when you came out with the Conspiracy Project. And that was a DVD. I think you produced that on a DVD. And I remember backing that, you were looking for people like, what'd you do, a GoFundMe on that?
Yeah, it wasn't that company. It was a that kind of a project, but it was Indiegogo.
Indiegogo, yeah.
Yeah. And because I wanted to get the money to produce the DVDs along with a free CD of the 17-song soundtrack and, all the lyrics in a booklet and all that. So we didn't have the money for that. But I spent 3 years producing it, making it, and that was a lot of work. And luckily, I got enough money from the Indiegogo project to be able to create the DVDs and CDs. And now people can actually see it for free on YouTube. If they want to donate, that's okay. I'm not going to stop them. But they could also on my website buy the DVD for $19.99, free shipping and a free CD, and it's it's award-winning soundtrack now, and it's been in many film festivals and all that. So that was pleasant surprise that so many people liked it, because a lot of people just are turned off by the documentaries or the big books, and we live in a country now that the literacy level is kind of going down every year.
Yeah, so, if you can't say it in like 5 or 10 seconds, people lose interest.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to use music and art and animation and even some humor. I mean, the video is serious in a lot of places, but some of it's very funny also. And I wanted to just use entertainment to get the point across, you know, like a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was all about the Conspiracy Project. And that brings you almost up to date on what I've been doing.
Okay. And then you decide you were going to start with something that's really, it has something to do with video, and I've watched the video, but it also is something completely different than what you've ever done before. And I have to tell you, when I watched it, I wasn't sure what I was seeing, but it kept me, I couldn't shut it down. You know, I kept thinking, what's next, you know?
Well, that's a good quote. I'm going to use that. That was the whole point of it. Yeah, that's Uncle Neal's Neighborhood. I just, you know, there's a part of me that people weren't seeing when they watched the conspiracy or the satire. I use a lot of humor, but they weren't seeing what I do in concert or the kind of wacky sense of humor I have. And I just wanted to get something out there that I could do on a regular basis that was totally devoid of anything really serious, and just, you know, just kind of like a breath of fresh air for people to watch. It'll be about 10 minutes long each episode. Hopefully I'll get 1 or 2 a month, I think. And, you know, just something where they can watch it and either laugh out loud or smile. And so it'll have a little bit of music, a lot of wackiness, a lot of zany antics. And, you know, and it's I think baby boomers might like it even more than younger kids, because some of the things in there you have to be a little bit older to understand. And like the final song that I did on this first episode takes us back to the ink spots from the 1940s. And
yeah, I don't want to set the world on fire.
Yeah. And you know what? I did that because when I was, I guess, 19 years old, I was playing up in the Catskill Mountains in New York. And there was this big resort hotel my band was playing in. And my wife's uncle owned the hotel. And we were playing, that's how I met her. She came up to visit her uncle. And we were playing in the lounge at that hotel opposite the ink spots. And it was kind of weird. It's like the original ink spots all kind of went off and each one formed their own group. So there was at least one original in the group we were alternating with. Mm-hmm. And I used to sit in with them sometimes, you know, at 19 years old, and they would announce themselves as the 5 ink spots and the 1 bleach spot. And I, of course, was the bleach spot. But it was a fun time, and I got to meet my wife, and 2 years later we got married. We've been married 48 years now, which is almost a record for at least most of the people my age. And
it is. Congratulations.
Thanks. Feels like 47. But anyway, so that's how I got to, you know, I love the music from the 40s, the swing bands, you know, the big bands, mm-hmm. and the Mills Brothers, you know, Glenn Miller, all that stuff. That was, even when I was a kid in the 50s, that was my favorite music. I wasn't too much into the doo-wop, you know, and the pop and rock at the time. Mm-hmm. It took, I was kind of a George Gershwin freak, and I like jazz and stuff like that, and show tunes, you know. But it took the Beatles to turn me around, because when they came out, they blew the lid off of what you could do in the studio. And so all of a sudden you could write about anything. It didn't have to be just, I love you, I lost you, another guy found you, now you're back with me. You know, you could write about anything, you know, and it got so creative that's what started me on wanting to really get out there and get a record contract and start writing some songs that were more important than just shake your booty, you know. Mm-hmm. So that's oh yeah, so then back to the Uncle Neal's Neighborhood. This project is so new. I don't know when your show is going to start airing. Is it pretty soon, or?
It'll probably be in 2 or 3 weeks, and my show comes out every Tuesday afternoon, and I usually have a few in the queue, so it'll be in another couple of weeks, I guess.
Okay, so by that time anybody can go see this the new show, because it's it's the official date for the general public is October 29th. So anytime after that, they can catch it on YouTube, on my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
And
when I saw it today, I believe you sent it out through the Conspiracy Project mailings that you do. So that was, I feel honored. I got a private showing, didn't I?
yeah, just a handful of people. You're on my Conspiracy Project mailing list, and then I have another mailing list for people who are not, they didn't come in, get to know me through Conspiracy Project. So I got these two mailing lists, and I sent out the advanced link to those people, and so thankfully you got it.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I'm glad. At this point, I think only maybe 60 people have seen it, and so far the reviews are outstanding, and I'm really thrilled. So it's going to make it give me a lot of encouragement to keep the episodes coming.
Mm-hmm. Now, Neal, as I watch this, a lot of it's video, and are you doing all this on your own, or you have a staff or technical people? Because it's very clever.
Thanks. Well, I wish I had a staff. All I got is said wife. She helps sometimes when I need a cameraman or somebody to sit there as a model while I get the lighting. I'm actually doing it all myself, which is why it takes so long to get it done. I did the video, the lighting, all the music on there, except for the one song, I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire. All the music you hear on there is from my library, my own music. And the animation, which is the thing that takes the longest. I did all the animation as well. So, yeah, it's basically, it's just me and my wife helping when she can.
Yeah, and there's a lot of animation, so you're creating all that yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. You're way beyond me. I'm just lucky enough to know that I have to press the right button to record on here.
Well, I hope you pressed the right button 20 minutes ago.
Well, actually, there's a red button up there, and it flashes on and off, and it says recording. So I'm good on that. We've had a few of the hosts have lost their shows on account of that, and I confess I lost one of mine too, because I thought that I did it right, and I didn't.
Well, you know what? You're not alone. Even though I've been doing this a long time, a lot of times when I go to lunch, I always have my iPhone with me just in case. Well, I mean, it's good to have the phone anyway, but yeah. I'm always looking for something funny to film or take a picture of. And several shots I missed because, well, in the sun, it's a little hard to see the screen on the iPhone.
Yeah.
So I push record, I think it's going, and then I push stop, and I pull over and I play it back, and it turns out I got nothing but my leg, you know. So then, of course, when I'm doing this, my wife
done that.
Yeah. So we circle the block and I do it again. But I understand technical problems all too well. It's a nightmare sometimes.
Okay. So if you say you're going to do about maybe 2 of these a month, it seems like it's going to be pretty time consuming for you. Do you have anything else you have going on in your life?
Well, right now, this is going to take up pretty much doing this 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know, I don't have kids. I just got a wife. Luckily, she loves the project, and she's handling all of the business and the administration and management of everything, and keeping track of all the songs and getting the licenses and all that. She's doing that. That's also a full-time job. But you know, once I get into creating an episode, the animation alone takes days and days. Even though it's simple animation, if you're doing it all yourself, it still takes a long time. And then I'm sometimes using music that I already have, but a lot of times I have to create new music for the show too. So yeah, it's going to be pretty much full-time, with a little time off to exercise, hopefully, and go to lunch and dinner.
And maybe get out and photograph or video some crazy stuff that's happening here in Florida or anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, that's about it. That's going to be the way it goes. I mean, you know, this is an experiment. I've never, well, except for the conspiracy project, which took pretty much 7 days a week for 3 years. This is a lot easier, though. I mean, the subject matter makes it more fun to do. It's not, you know, when I did the conspiracy project, if I took a serious subject, I would have to do a lot of research, watch a lot of documentaries, read a lot of things. And, you know, then I would cull the information and use what I thought was correct and put it in a way I could promote it the right way, you know. But a lot of that information, not so much when you're watching my video, my film, but the research was really, really hard to slog through. But this show is such a joy. It's, you know, even though it's a full-time job, I think I'm going to enjoy it. I still don't know exactly how many I'll do a month. 2 a month might be a little bit optimistic. I'll have to find out once I get going. Right now I've got maybe another, well, 1 almost ready, and then another 2 almost ready. So we'll see.
Sounds very, very ambitious. Now you talked, Neal, about you're a musician, I know, and I see in the background you have a keyboard. So what instruments do you play? And you said you create your own music, so I presume you write music. And
yeah, this well, I've got 2 keyboards. I don't think you can see them. I got a piano type keyboard below this one.
mm-hmm.
This is a pure synthesizer controller type thing, and the one below it is more of a piano type thing. They both connect into the computer, so I compose on that, and then I flesh out the arrangement with the computer and the libraries of sounds. Like if I need strings, I have a string library, and I'll play the violin part in, then play the viola, then the cello and the bass. Then I'll play live guitar on top of it and do live singing. And yeah, this is it. I've been composing and arranging and producing probably, let's see, well, all my life. But since I got into the jingle biz, I guess that was in the mid 80s. That's when I really started producing and writing on a daily basis, because we would have ad agencies would call us, and they'd have certain parameters, and they'd say, well, we need a jingle that's something like this, and it's got to be 29.5 seconds long, and here's our slogan, and then we have to produce that and get it to them the next day. So I learned to do that, and, you know, just do it as fast and as good as possible and get it out. And then the next day you work on the new client's material, but that's the same day the old client gets his thing and has to call you back and tell you what's wrong with it, so you have to redo it. So now you've got 2 things you're doing the same next day. It was a crazy business. But even crazier than that was when we started getting work from NBC and CBS. That was really crazy, because you'd get a job like, this is why I couldn't have a weekend or even a vacation. NBC would call like on a Friday at 5:30 and say, we need a demo by Monday. So, you know, you don't want to turn down NBC, because that would be a high ticket project. And so that basically I'd spend the whole weekend putting something together, writing something. And usually my partners, I had 2 partners, they would write something as well. So I'd be in on recording and producing that with them, as well as my own piece of music. And we'd have to get it to them by Monday morning. And there'd be competition if it was somebody as big as NBC. So there was no guarantee you even got it, but you had to do it. So that was a crazy business. That was really, really nutty. The money was great, but it was, I'm holding back on how much I loved it. In case anybody's listening to that, I used to be an old client of mine. There was a lot of commercials I did that were for local Florida as well. We did Winn-Dixie, we did SeaWorld. I can't remember all of them. I've been out of the business almost, well, I guess 18 years or something. And I managed to forget most of it as soon as I got out of it. It wasn't what I wanted to do.
Choice?
Yeah. It was kind of a thing where I didn't want to be in the business to begin with, but the money was so good and so easy at the time that I couldn't stop, you know, and Then we bought a house with the money, and I had a recording studio built into the house. And, you know, because the money was so good, I was able to buy toys all the time. And for me, a toy is a new synthesizer or some new software. That's what kept my interest going, you know, getting new sounds and playing with all these gadgets and stuff. So, but then I never had any time, even though I had the studio right in my house, I never had any time to do my own projects. So it became like, you know, it was great, but it was terrible. You know, it was just strange business.
So what else would you like to talk about or tell us about something that you've done in the past that you're really proud of, or really, or something, is there anything else in the future besides Uncle Neal's Neighborhood?
Well, let's see. I'm hoping through Uncle Neal's Neighborhood that people will be able to be turned on to my other videos, my other projects. Basically, I want to use this as something that will get me a larger audience than, say, just the conspiracy stuff or the social commentary would. I think it would appeal to a larger audience because it's comedy and it's, you know, I think that'll go over easier. And hopefully if I get a large enough audience, I'll recommend certain videos they can watch after this, you know, after the episode. And hopefully they'll even want to buy some of my CDs or follow me on Spotify, follow me on YouTube, you know, they can subscribe and all that. And if it works out good enough, if I get a big enough following, the thing I'd really love to do is to get into doing concerts. You know, have Uncle Neal's concerts for, you know, just sporadically across the country or wherever I need to do it, wherever I can do it. Right now, doing a concert without having a huge following locally even it's kind of hard. You know, you won't sell that many tickets.
Yeah.
So even though I got a lot of people spread out all over the country that like what I do, it's not enough to sell a whole lot of tickets to get me doing a concert. But I'd like to do the kind of concert where I could have it interacting again with videos. So I come on and maybe even have a guest with me and stuff like that. And do an Uncle Neal's Neighborhood live, you know, in concert. That would be my ideal thing, to do that.
You mentioned YouTube and Spotify. Where can our viewers find you? I know you're on Facebook and so far on social media.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. Well, I'll give you the details. They could, first of all, they can go to my main website, which is therealnealfox.com.
Mm-hmm.
And they could see my bio and local, you know, whatever's happening, the new stuff. They could also sign up for my newsletter there. If they're on my newsletter, they'll get notified as to anything I do. I don't spam people. I usually write maybe one newsletter a month. Just, you know, I know people don't like to get a whole lot of stuff in their email basket. But it'll give them the important stuff. And they could also follow me on YouTube, where they go to youtube.com/NealF.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they get there, they can just hit the subscribe button and the little bell thing that's next to the subscribe thing. And if they do that, they'll get notified whenever I upload a new video. That's the easiest way to keep track of the videos. And let's see what else. Well, yeah, I am on Facebook. I think it's called The Real Neal something. I don't know. If they go to Facebook and they type in Neal Fox, they'll find me somehow.
Yeah, and that's how I find you. If I want to catch up with you, I'll just type in Neal Fox and you come right up, and then it has a lot of links in there as well.
Oh, good. Also, the Conspiracy Project has its own website, which you probably know. Yeah, that's theconspiracyproject.org. And they can go there and what can they do over there? Well, I've got a good resource area there for links to all kinds of people who have their own blogs and videos and other documentaries and books, all recommended, that I researched. So if they're interested at all in things like 9/11 and chemtrails and, the Federal Reserve and vaccines, how that gets people all angry.
All these things that people think are conspiracies, but really aren't.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that the film, The Conspiracy Project, will serve the purpose of converting a few people to at least not being turned off to things that CNN tells them. Like if they laugh off and try to make people look crazy by calling them conspiracy theorists. Mm-hmm. But the fact is that if you don't believe in conspiracies, you've never opened a history book, because history is nothing but conspiracies. So even the Vietnam War, I talk about false flags. If anybody doesn't know what that is, you can find that out. Johnson and McNamara during the Vietnam War, they did something to try to, it was not a popular war, and Johnson wanted to get the American public more on his side, more in favor of sending more troops to Vietnam. And the way he did that was to lie about us being attacked by the North Vietnamese in the Gulf of Tonkin. Mm-hmm. If you look that up, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's it's a fact now. We were not attacked. They lied about it so that to gain popular support to send more troops to Vietnam, which happens all the time. So I want people to just really start questioning things rather than to just getting, let's go get them, and war is the answer and all that. Yeah, we have to defend ourselves, but it better be for the right reasons, not the lying,
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that, because I think that's really important. That's really an important message to give our viewers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm a big supporter of the Constitution, which I'm sure you are.
Yes.
It's and what really gets me angry, and this is not just part of the Conspiracy Project, but this is, anybody can find this out who really wants to. If you stop watching CNN and MSNBC, you'll find out, about this. But the school system, the public school system, and the colleges are indoctrinating the young people with this kind of socialist Marxist philosophy, anti-free enterprise, anti-capitalist kind of thing. That's why right now socialism is starting to pick up momentum. They even have out of the closet socialist politicians running for office. And they're trying to make it seem like this is the answer to all our problems. We just steal the money from the guys who are earning it and give it to the guys who aren't earning it. And then it's fair and everybody's happy and it's all kind-hearted. But, the thing we point out, well, it didn't work in Venezuela, Cuba, Russia. And then they come back with the argument, well, yeah, but it's working in Sweden and Norway. Well, it actually isn't working in Sweden and Norway. If you ask the president of Sweden if they're a socialist country, he'll tell you no, they are a free enterprise capitalist country. They tried socialism for quite a while. Turns out they were going bankrupt and they couldn't keep the programs going. They ran out of money to hand out free stuff. So they had to go back to a capitalist system. And it's capitalism that's paying for what little socialism they have. Without capitalism, they wouldn't even be able to have that amount of socialism.
Yeah, and I guess they talk about socialized medicine, which they're into, but that's really not working that well for them either.
Yeah. And I just want people to really look at it and stop automatically believing mainstream news. Mainstream news, whatever you think of President Trump, he really did make mainstream news popular as fake news, because they really are. I mean, they don't just lie, which they do also. And I'm not just talking about CNN, which is the biggest liar of all time, but they selectively leave things out. And that's a kind of legal lying. You know, you try to sway people by only presenting these particular facts and leaving all of this out. And that's legal lying, you know. So I just, hopefully, I want people to think for themselves, to look away from the usual channels of information, do their own research. Yeah, there's a lot of BS out there in terms of conspiracies too, but the amount of BS coming out of CNN, I mean, it's just unbelievable when you start to watch and hear about it. So that's basically what I'm hoping, and what I want to do with Uncle Neal's Neighborhood, as I said, is just to hopefully get a much wider audience, which will bring people in to my area, and they can start watching my other videos and have some fun doing it. It's not,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, most of the conspiracy documentaries I've seen, they're a little hard to watch unless you're really dedicated, because it's depressing when you find out things that are true or might be true. It could get very depressing when you start going down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want the seriousness to keep people from looking at what's really going on. That's the enemy's best weapon, to make it so insane and hard to look at that people will not want to confront it, and then they get away with it. Mm-hmm. Simple as that. If they make it like this whole thing now with all these stories about pedophilia in the government, in England and in America, and not just Bill Clinton, but you know, there's so much of it going on if you look into it. That's a hard subject. Human trafficking in particular is a hard subject for people to look at. And that's the exact reason that it still exists. Because it's so hard, people don't want to look at it. If people looked at it and really confronted it, it would end, because then it would become real to them and nobody would get away with it anymore. They're only getting away with it because people can't look at it. That's their biggest weapon, the enemy's biggest weapon.
Yeah. This, I'm glad you brought this up about human trafficking and sex trafficking. Has gotten to be almost epidemic in America today, and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I did my before I did Uncle Neal's Neighborhood, my last 2 music videos. One was about human rights, which people should see. It won a whole lot of awards already. It's called "You Have the Right." It's on my channel, and the other one is called My Special Girl, which is about human trafficking. That one hardly anybody's looking at. And at the end of that video, it gives a lot of websites where they can get more information. But it's a really tough subject. And I start out the subject saying that human trafficking is a $150 billion a year business. It's amazing. There are more slaves now than there were in the 1800s worldwide. People don't know this, you know, and if you know how to spot it, you can see young girls. It's not just prostitution, but it's people working in slave-like conditions coming from other countries and things like that. It's kidnappings. It's all sorts of things, and it's worldwide. It's happening. Florida is one of the big areas for human trafficking. Tampa, Pinellas County. It's right in our backyard. It's all over the place. But if people know about it, then we can start to get rid of it.
Well, Neal, I hope that the message that you're bringing will help educate people in America. And like you said before, socialism is getting such a foothold that I saw a survey where 40% of the people feel that socialism is preferable to democracy and capitalism. And that's 52% of millennials feel that way. And so we have to go back and say they must be getting this from their schools. And I almost said education. I should have said indoctrination.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's the school systems. They're not teaching the Constitution. They're teaching that the Constitution is an outdated document that doesn't need to be studied. That's the most important thing they need to study. Colleges, I mean, 90% at least of the college professors are left or extreme left, or even call themselves Marxists. You know, so you have from the earliest ages, you're right, it's indoctrination, indoctrinating people, indoctrinating kids when they're most susceptible, all the way through college. That's why it's getting so crazy now, where anybody with a different point of view can't even speak at a college. They don't even know what freedom of speech is anymore. They don't even know it's one of our guarantees.
What do George Carlin, Soupy Sales, and Groucho Marx have in common? They were just some of the inspiration behind my new web series, Uncle Neal's Neighborhood, starting October 29th on my YouTube channel. Go there, subscribe, click the little bell thingy, and you'll get notified of every new episode. Don't miss it if you can. Don't miss it if you can't. Just don't miss it. It's going to be fun. Great way to start your week.
Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed. What we're going to do now is I'm going to see if we can. I want to encourage you to get his conspiracy project DVD. It's really fantastic. It's a must see, and I know you're going to love the Uncle Neal's Neighborhood, because it was just so much fun. I started watching it and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And he did some great parodies on some folks that you all know about, like Kim Jong-il and everything. I mean, really, really good, creative, funny stuff. So be sure to get that. And all the information is in the article with the links and everything. And while you're getting into that, you can also get 2020, A Clear Vision for America. And hey, it makes a great Christmas gift. So start thinking about, what you're going to get for the holidays. And what I do for my readers who ask and get gift copies, and a lot of them do, is I actually write a note. I inscribe the book as a gift and put a little note in there for them and everything. So it really ends up being something that I think is priceless, and it really is. And remember, when you get my book, I pay the shipping, I pay the taxes and everything. So you're not getting any hidden costs or anything. You're getting the real deal. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. Remember, where there is no vision, the people perish. So make sure you got the 2020 Clear Vision for America. And also be watching for real soon the 2020 A Clear Vision for Our Future, which is going to cover the Constitution and a whole lot of other important things that we need to know. Never before seen the way I wrote that one. So anyway, God bless you all. God bless all our active duty troops and our vets. And God save our America, because we need you now more than ever before.